This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by former WO World Cruiserweight Champion Johnny Nelson here at the Love Factory in Manchester. Johnny, you have been to a Love Factory before?
Everybody's driving around thinking, where is it? Then you find it's like an oasis in the sand.
It certainly is. I had my troubles finding it as well, but here we are. You found love yet, Johnny?
Pardon?
Have you found love yet?
I love myself. That's good enough. As long as I love myself, we're good.
And we love boxing, which is the reason we're here in Manchester, obviously Saturday night. Let's just start off with the one fight, which isn't technically a Sky or boxer fight, Hatton-Barrera. You'd have covered Ricky's career towards the latter end when you retired. Are you excited to see him back? Granted, it's only an exhibition, but...
Listen, I'm looking forward to see how Ricky feels when he's in there, in that arena. He's got himself in brilliant condition. And I mean brilliant condition compared to how he was. And he himself says, you know what, it's now a lifestyle now. I can't go back to being Ricky Fatton. I've got to keep myself trim and slim. Barrera, I think Barrera's last fight was 2012 or 9. Hatton's last fight was 2010. So these guys have not been competitively fighting for quite some time now. But one thing I can tell you is it's in your blood, it's in your system. You'll always train, you're always vain enough to never really let it go emotionally. So I think what they're doing now, get himself in a position where they're going to put an exhibition on, I think it'll be good. I think Barrera will be professional, they'll get on with it. I don't think anybody's going to go in for the finish, the KO, the kill, but I think these guys are going there to put on a good exhibition. You've got two iconic fighters that are alive, that can still move around, wearing bigger gloves, shorter rounds, so I'm looking forward to it.
With the boxer card itself, Jonas attempts to claim another 154 title. Tell us about that fight, Johnny.
I think it's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. Opponent Dicaire, she, I think she's only lost one, and that was to Clarissa Shields. She's naturally the bigger fighter. Two-time IBF champion, so she's been there, she's success, and she knows this might be shutting the door on a chance to get in there with I don't know, Clarissa again. Clarissa's actually talking now about coming back down again to fight the division. Of course, we'd like to see Clarissa over here again, and Natasha is always and forever written off when the stakes are high for her. This is not an easy fight, but it's a fight it's one of those fights that she knows the goal at the end of her rainbow is going to be ridiculous, because that fight with Clarissa could happen.
How would you fancy Natasha's chances if the Clarissa fight did go ahead?
I will never go against Clarissa again. I'm not making that mistake again. I actually, I thought Savannah had all the tools going to beat this young girl and Clarissa just upped it on every level. So Natasha against Clarissa, I think it's going to be, listen, a tough ask. Not an impossible one, but a tough ask. But I'll never go against Shields again, because she proved to me there's a lot more than what she's shown us, and she's a proper fight through and through.
Dalton Smith, Casey Benjamin for that much coveted British title. Dalton with another step up. Excited to see him back on Sky platform? Yeah,
Dalton Smith, I know him, trains with his dad, Sheffield boy. First defence of that British title, and if he's anything to go by, I know this young man has pride, self-belief and confidence in what he's got. He's a stepping stone. You look at what he's done domestically. Domestically, he's blitzed through the opposition. Domestically, he's way beyond that. And he's doing it the right traditional way, picking up British, maybe Commonwealth, then maybe European, do it that way. Gives you confidence and respect in and out of the ring. And I think it's a good platform for the Sky fans to actually get familiar with him and get behind him and get that fan base for him.
Azim's obviously signed a long-term deal recently with Boxer and Sky. One fight which has been spoken about, a potential one down the line, him and Dalton. How big could that fight be at some point?
Wicked fight. And again, it's risk-reward. Is the risk there? Should they do it right now? Dalton's seasoned all the way through. I wouldn't do it. I'd wait until that fight is really worth something. I wouldn't do that fight now, because why would you? But I'd create the value. You can't see any fighter losing anytime soon. So that's why I'd wait. Great fight, but I wouldn't do it yet.
Frazer Clarke steps up against Kamil Sokolowski, one which he said that he wanted at this stage of his career. A good test for him. What are you hoping that he kind of has to come through to ensure that he keeps his winning record intact?
Frazer Clarke clearly has the ability, but it's not been shown in the professional ringers yet. You remember all the people he's boxed through the amateurs and sparred with as a professional behind closed doors. So this is the kind of fight he craves for, because these are the kind of guys he mixes with anyway, and so he needs to get paid and credit for his talent and who he is and what he wants to be. And at this stage in his career, he needs to start making headway. He needs to start making a difference where people think Frazer Clarke, they put him up there, they start talking about him on a bigger scale, not as an amateur that's just turned pro. He needs to get the respect from everybody.
Sticking with that heavyweight division, the WBC convention's ongoing, and they've just ordered Deontay Wilder and Andi-Ruiz Jr. in a final eliminator. Johnny, talk to me about it.
Great fight, love that fight, and there's no reason why that fight couldn't happen either. Great fight, because I think Wilder, he always has that punch power. Technically, the better boxer is Ruiz, is Andi-Ruiz. That's in my opinion. And so then you've got size and power against a good technical, powerful fighter in Ruiz. And again, let's not make the mistake and underestimate him. I like that fight. I think what's happened there, it's I think for Ruiz, he's now hungry, especially after how he conducting himself after the first AJ win and went in there and really let himself down in the second AJ fight, and he wants to be back up on top again.
Speaking to Frazer Clarke last night and also Andi-Ruiz this past weekend, they both raised a point that the advantage for Andy is his height. Obviously, being a smaller guy, Deontay trying to punch down, it's very difficult for a heavyweight to do so. Who would you kind of edge him at? Frazer said that he slightly favours Andi-Ruiz.
Listen, as I said, Andi-Ruiz, I think technically is a better fighter, without a doubt. But it's very hard to write off Wilder with that power. And that's it. And yes, you're punching down, but what about punching up? What about bringing those uppercuts up? What about bringing them round? And so if Ruiz can get in close enough, then of course that shortness about him works for him perfectly. But it's getting in close against somebody that hits so powerfully, can knock you out from 6 inches. So to me, I would still side towards Wilder in this fight, and that's only because of his power, his reach and his height.
Just sticking with Wilder, saw Anthony Joshua as well last weekend, and alongside him Eddie earlier in the week said that Shelley Finkel had reached back out to potentially discuss a fight next year beyond, say, Wilder-Ruiz if that goes ahead. Is a Deontay Wilder fight the right step next for AJ or Dillian White, or would you like to see him face somebody a bit more kind of, say, easier?
Well, AJ himself has said he doesn't like not being champion. And so he's got to get himself in a respectable position where people think, you know what, again, let's not write him off, and we've got to respect this man as a top level fighter. So these are the fights that do it. This is the fight that, you know what, good shout to Shea. Let's get this fight on, let's do it. So for him in his career, why not? Why not? If he's saying that next year, why not? If there's anything going to happen in his career, it's probably going to be next year. So he's got to wait and have a path, have a plan to think, right, I need the right scalps to get the right respect, to get the right win.
Johnny, there seems to be some uncertainty around AJ and his training situation. If you was just to advise him, just have a little word with him, what would you say to him in terms of who he should be looking to train with and how he should look to buckle down now?
I think he needs some old heads in his camp. Some old wisdom in his camp. I think he needs boxing people in his camp where they talk, eat, drink, sleep, think boxing. And in doing that, it's immersed in him. And then doing that, he's got to be in a position where he's a bit uncomfortable in camp. He's doing things that actually aren't his call. You know, he's doing things that he's learning stuff. He's doing things that are pushing him, developing him. Broadening his horizons. That's what he wants. He can't be comfortable in camp, say, right, everything's exactly how I want it to be. You've got to get some smarts in your corner, some old heads in camp, and make sure you're in a position where you are learning and developing all the way through. And so where does he find that? They are around. There are very old school, good coaches left. Very, very few left. So he's got to make the right choice, not the popular choice. And if he does that, then he'll benefit.
Johnny, have you seen a change or a shift in AJ's mentality at all over the last couple of years?
Without a doubt. I think, especially of late, because now he's seen the raw side of human behaviour. When people, instead of slapping on the back, they have the bottle to disrespect him, telling him how bad they think he is instead of how good he think he is, and that hurts you as a human. So AJ, of course, he's thinking, why would I put this front on for you where Fury doesn't do it, White doesn't do it, Chisora doesn't do it, so why me? So so AJ now is becoming himself. He's becoming his raw self, and yes, people are saying I want to see that, but you know what? It's made him commercially probably the most successful, wealthiest current heavyweight because of that commerciality that he created in his career. Now he's at a point where he thinks, right, I've done that bit, got the dough. Now it's my turn. I want to come out because obviously, I want to be top dog. So, I'm doing it my way.
Moving away from that, you've got Chris Eubank Jr, Liam Smith being discussed for December 17th. Johnny, a terrific fight. Do you think we will see that? And if so, who do you edge towards? Because I've had a few people now suggest they back Liam in that fight.
So, say that again?
Chris Eubank Jr and Liam Smith. Who do you kind of edge towards? Because I've had a few people suggest Liam.
The fresher of the two, I'd go Chris. I would go Chris. Chris has got the engine. He's just got that fight freshness about him. Obviously, the more experienced fighter of the two is Smith, and common sense would take you that way. But I'd go Eubank because he just has that freshness about him. He just has that little bit. If he'd have said 5 years ago, I'd have said Smith every day of the week. But I'd lean towards Eubank.
Speaking to Roy Jones Jr. this past weekend, he said that he's actually teaming back up with Junior. Obviously, very different style he brought in with him when he teamed up with him previously. So how does that change, if at all, kind of your opinion on the fight and how he'll approach it?
I think it's very important to have smarts in your corner, and for him to bring Roy back in on camp, it shows how serious it is. He's going in there with an experienced ex-world champion. He's not an idiot, so therefore he's going to make sure he ticks every box. He needs that help. He understands he can't do it on his own, like he was preparing for the Conor Benn fight. So I think that's the best thing he could do.
I previously spoke to you about Kell Brook potentially coming back, those rumours, and he was linked with both of those names. Assuming that's off the table, is Kell still looking at it?
What makes you think it's off the table? That's it.
Fair enough, Johnny. Just sticking with kind of around those fighters, obviously Conor Benn. I just want to get your thoughts on the latest developments around him in terms of it coming out about a second foul test earlier in the year, as we await more news as it continues to unfold.
I think the word I picked up on in everything that's been said and done is muddying the waters. So stick to facts, not he said, she said. You should have done this, you should have done that. Stick to facts. Facts are a banned substance was found in the system. And so he will have to just take the punishment that comes with it, unless he can say, there's a reason why it was in my system. So far, there isn't one. So no matter what speculation is out there, Conor will take the direction of his career that he wants to take, be it by the British board or be it by somebody else. But there's no point throwing stones at everybody else in regards to, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. It's pointless. Muddying the waters. Fact is, he failed the drug test. That's it. Deal with the fact. So if he gets a 2-year ban, a 4-year ban, he gets it. Deal with it. Then he's got to deal with the cloud over him when he comes back to boxing again.
How do you expect it to unfold from this point on, Johnny?
As I said, he's got to do his time, and if he wants to carry on boxing, come back and box. We can all speculate until Conor Benn sits down, and until he gives his argument for why this was what it was. Just stick to facts. How he failed the drug test. Take your ban, move on, and that's what it is. And if he and he's at a crucial part of his career where the development of him as a fighter is coming through. So it'll only damage him and his career, this layoff. But if you take the risk, you've got to pay the price.
Final one, Johnny, because we're about to wrap up. I've just actually had it come through to me that apparently Roy Jones Jr.'s had a conversation with Anthony Joshua about potentially working together. So your thoughts, would that be a good move on the back of what we've just said earlier?
Old head. He's got an old head on his shoulders. He knows the fight game. He understands the fight game. He has that right attitude. I love that. I don't know what Roy would be able to do for well, yeah, I do actually. I just think his style, very loose, So it's going to take a lot of time for that transition to kick in. I think Roy's a brilliant fighter, as we know. Clash of styles, him and AJ. Maybe this is what AJ needs. That little bit of relaxing, that little bit back foot lead. Southpaw orthodox style. He's got to be thinking in an orthodox way. So if that is true, good for AJ.
Right, Johnny, we'll leave it there now because I believe the undercard press conference is about to start. Thank you.
Awesome, brother.